Hello, everybody, and welcome to Two Geeks and One Noob, where we gather friends of similar interests and maybe not so similar and discuss, joke, learn more about, and generally have fun with geek culture. Today, we have a very special episode. David and Caleb are not with us, but I have two very special guests, Blake and Matt, my two D&D buddies.
Hello.
Hey.
Glad to be back.
Yeah, Blake has been here before. Matt, this is his first time.
Yep. First time.
First time.
So excited.
But yeah, so today we're going to be talking about the new Dungeons and Dragons movie, Honor Among Thieves. I guess we'll just kind of jump right in and say what our reactions were. What do you guys think?
Best movie in the last 2 years.
As somebody who does a lot of like lore reading and research on like different realms and worlds and stuff like that, getting to see the Sword Coast and Faerun brought to life like this was absolutely wonderful. Like
Yeah.
I loved it, and I loved all the like they didn't just go surface level with anything. There was some like actual deep cuts in the lore that was like, oh hey, they mentioned that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, and we'll definitely get into some of those kind of things because I think it's late enough where we can do some spoilers if we need to. But spoiler alert to begin with.
All the spoilers.
But
Yeah.
but even that aside, like even if you don't do all that deep lore research and stuff like that, it was still just like it was a solid movie.
Yeah,
Like it was good.
such
It was
a fun
enjoyable. Like we had somebody that went with us. I don't remember. It was Kyle.
Yes, Kyle.
Yeah.
His name was Kyle.
And like he came out of that like that was fun. I liked that. And then even David, who hates everything, came out and was like, "Wow, that was actually a good movie. I enjoyed that." And I was like, "Whoa!"
Yeah, that was a high point right there. It was just like, okay, we had the grump of the group actually like something.
David doesn't hate everything.
Yeah, but I walked
He likes
out.
coffee, so like that counts for something.
But I walked out of the theater and like we were leaving, and I was telling my wife, I was like, yeah, I bet David didn't like it. And then I walked up to David and said, all right, so how much did you hate it? And he goes, no, I actually really enjoyed that movie. And I was like, what?
Nice. What about you, Matt?
I mean, I'm like the opposite of Blake. I don't know any of the lore. Like when we play D&D, I'm just playing to play, and I hate DMing.
Yeah.
So I never really dive into like the grand lore of things. I just make it up as I go. But the movie was, I mean, it was really good. Like
Yeah.
it was very, like it caught my attention, and I was able to watch it the whole way through and enjoy every part of it. I know I missed one part because I had to pee in the middle of the movie, which is like ultimate sin when you're watching a movie.
Yeah, weakness.
Yeah, it was a skill issue.
So is that pee, when pee leaves your body, it's just weakness?
Well, like I mean, I
The
laughed.
fact that he had to get up in the
Yeah,
middle
the
of the
fact
movie.
that I had to that I
was
drank like
weakness.
two like big cups of soda, and I was like, well, that was a mistake, and then I
Yeah.
had to try and run out of the
I mean,
theater, which didn't happen. But it was like it was good.
Those of you who know.
Those of you who don't know why Matt running is funny, we're just going to leave it alone. No, I mean, I did the same thing. I drank a lot of soda before I went in there, and then like 20 minutes in, I was like, man, I really have to pee. And Heather was like, well, if you're going to go, just go refill this. And I was like, I'm not going. You misunderstand. I am staying here until this very long movie is over.
Yeah.
I can refill it, but you're not going to want to
And
drink
so gross. But as soon as it was over, like I got up and like ran out of that theater because like I felt like I was about to burst.
Yeah, I was about halfway through the movie and I was like, oh crap, I have to pee.
When we were out of popcorn, I'm like, I can't even salt the pee down. Like,
Well, now that we've
Welcome to this very special episode of
now
Two
that-
Geeks One Noob.
now that we've gone on our tangent of urination, let's get back onto the topic at hand of, hey, that was actually a really good
it was
movie.
a very, very
Yeah.
good movie.
Yeah, so on my side of it, it's like I'm kind of in between the two of you where I hear all my lore from Blake, and and I don't know anything about the lore, but it was still I could I could see some things, some Easter eggs that were like, oh sweet, they put that in. Oh cool, that's in. And then there's some I'm like, I have no idea what that is, but hey, it's cool.
I got some of the Easter eggs. Like I got like
Yeah.
the old campaign, like or like the old cartoon movie. Like I knew
Yeah,
about that and
yep.
all of those guys and
Yeah.
like
I had to see that on Facebook to recognize it though,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
I've never seen it, but I've like known of it.
Yeah.
And like with like posts and stuff, I've seen it before. But
I've seen little clips of it.
Yeah, I think the most I've seen of it was either that ad on Facebook or like maybe a clip of something that I was like, oh, okay, I kind of recognize those.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
You should love that movie because it has like a barbarian that has a pet unicorn, and your character is all about pets. So like,
yeah, that's true. Oh, that's what I was gonna say. I think one of my favorite things about the movie though was the beginning of it was set in Icewind Dale, and that's where our campaign is right now. That so cool. It was like, ooh, I know that place.
Yeah, as soon as you saw like the frozen tundra, I was like, oh, I bet you they're in Icewind Dale. And Heather was like, why would they start there? And I was like, I don't freaking know, because it's a popular setting. And then it was like Icewind Dale, and I was like, see,
Yeah, when
what
it
did I say?
panned out to the map, I was just like,
as soon as it started, and I saw like the sled, I leaned over to Rachel, my wife, and I was like, hey. I think I'm gonna ask Blake if we can buy one of those. Like, we need one of those so bad.
The prison sled.
I mean, we can convert it from a prison sled into like a.
You're right. You guys probably do need somewhere
like
to lock friendly up.
Yeah, like a Cadillac of a sled. Like that's what we want.
we can just board up the bars and make it have a little fire pit in there with like a little opening over it, and
that
it's a
way I
little
don't have-
sauna.
That way I don't have
put
to
a
make an
little
igloo
whale
every
oil
single day.
Yeah,
a little whale oil stove in there.
yeah, perfect.
Ridiculous.
I like it. Get our axe beaks to
pull it.
pull it. Yeah, buy a couple more.
Well, you guys do currently have an extra one because somebody's not writing it anymore.
Yeah.
R.I.P. homie.
R.I.P. to
Well,
Dickwad.
no, he's not dead. He's not dead.
He is friendly. No. He is.
Maybe we should like introduce our characters as we're like calling each other.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So obviously.
Well, yeah, I'm Blake. I'm the dungeon master extraordinaire.
Yeah. I am Lalander, the Wood Elf Ranger.
And I am Friendly Scamp, the Mock, which is like a custom mimic race made by Chris Zito.
You got to give credit to Chris Zito.
Yeah.
Nice.
And he is.
It is available on Dungeon Masters Guild. He has a lot of good stuff on there.
My character is just nuts.
He is. I actually, above game, I have a leash that holds him at bay. A magical leash.
Wait, you have that?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay.
But we also have another player who is playing as a Goliath armorer artificer.
Yeah.
Named Jorgensen the Crow.
Yeah, and we most recently added a Bugbear Redemption Paladin.
Yes.
So I guess you don't have an extra axe beak. You just have one that he can ride. Mammerdock.
I'll get it someday.
Yeah. So my brother Adam is playing a Bugbear Paladin named Mammerdock, which is Matt Murdock without the T's.
And I've called him Marmaduke about 15 times.
It's good fun.
And Jorgensen is played by Joel.
Yeah.
We didn't say his name yet. So.
Hi, Joel.
Hi, Joel. But yeah, anyway, back to the movie.
Icewind Dale is sick.
Icewind Dale is awesome.
Sad they only spent like 5 minutes of the movie in there.
Yeah. But seeing the rest of the Forgotten Realms and stuff like that is so cool.
It was neat seeing Neverwinter brought to the big screen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they mentioned like Waterdeep and
I think Baldur's Gate at one point.
Baldur's Gate.
To look for his daughter.
They went to the Underdark. Holy crap.
Very briefly. They only encountered like one dangerous thing there, like dangerous monster there, and I was like, man, there is so much in the Underdark. Like, yes, I understand. There's also going to be like vast expanses of nothing, but like,
didn't they go like right past a town, like in the Underdark, and like they didn't even like even show like what
Oh
was
yeah,
Yeah.
the Mind Flayer settlement.
Is that what that
Well,
was?
is that
It was a
what that
mind
was?
flayer?
Yeah, that's why there was a bunch of intellect
I thought it was like a
devourers.
goblin town or
Well,
something.
at first I was looking at it and it looked similar to the depictions of Menzoberranzan, which is the like big drow city. It's the city of the drow. Like it's
Okay.
this massive underground city. It's where Drizzt Do'Urden came from.
Oh, okay.
But they mentioned something about mind flayers being in this place, and then like, I could be mistaken, but they mentioned something about mind flayers being in this place, and I didn't recognize it, which that's a gap in my lore.
Okay.
And then a bunch of intellect devourers came by.
Yeah. The little brain dudes.
Yeah.
Which is funny because I just heard on Critical Role them talking about how they came across those. And I was like, oh, hey, I know what those are now.
What, in season 1?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those things are absolutely lethal.
Yeah.
Like, very low CR. Absolutely lethal. Like, they can one-shot you.
Is that the big brain?
No,
No,
that's the
that's
elder
an elder
brain.
brain.
Oh, that's
The
another
intellect devourers, they can basically stun you, and then if you fail, I think, an intelligence saving throw, then they teleport inside your head and immediately devour your brain, and then take over and will puppet your body.
So it's a
Oh, my.
yerk from Animorphs. Got it.
Oh my god, you freaking nerd! It's pretty
It's
rich,
called
right?
Two Geeks, One Noob. I had to throw in a geek thing, so Animorphs.
Yep.
Because D&D
Because
D&D's
D&D
not
is-
geeky enough.
It's not enough. You gotta go with
It's the ultimate geekdom, all right? if you're a
It's the
geek
wellspring
and you
from which all other geekdom flows.
right, yeah. Okay, so we were talking about this a little bit before we started recording, but I kind of want to get a little bit of this conversation in here. But what did you guys think? Because they brought in a bunch of these races or species.
Races. I don't care.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're racist.
yeah, these races like Aarakocra, Dragonborn, Tabaxi, things like that.
There was a Yanti in the prison.
Yeah, there
Yes,
was a
there was a
Yanti.
Yanti.
The Yanti
What was
looked
the other one that was right before the Yanti? You looked like you were excited to see it. Do you remember?
I don't.
Okay, all right.
And the big guy was a bugbear?
The big dude that they locked in the same cell, I honestly couldn't tell what he was. Like, he had the like bottom tusks of an orc.
Yeah.
But like he looked like just a big dude. Like
He wasn't
I
pretty.
think he was an orc.
which I know in Forgotten Realms, like canon, the orcs have like kind of grayish skin.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like he just looked like a big dude with messed up teeth.
Whatever he was, he had a low charisma for sure.
Definitely.
For sure.
Well, now he has a really, really slow walking speed.
Yep. Is he even alive?
If he's alive, like don't
'Cause
interrupt people. Don't interrupt people when they're eating potatoes, ladies and gentlemen.
No,
Like just
do not.
leave them alone.
Favorite weapon of the whole movie.
Was a potato.
Was potatoes. it was a hard choice between the potato weapon and the sword that like shot out.
Okay,
Like,
so-
both of those were so
Yeah,
cool.
So Heather was so
cool.
excited about that because she plays a barbarian who is obsessed with potatoes, and so like when she saw that, like Atreya,
Yeah.
when she saw that on the big screen, she was just like, ah, it's me. Because like
That's
so
awesome.
her barbarian is a lizard folk that like thinks that all bread products are just terrible and awful and disgusting, but loves potatoes. The only difference is she likes to eat them raw. And
Okay.
so like they go and get rations, and she's just like stocking up on potatoes, and they're like, "Oh, you're gonna cook all those?" And she's like, "Why would you ruin a potato?"
Yeah.
And then just starts eating it like an apple.
Doesn't even wash the dirt off.
Yeah,
Just
doesn't
like,
it? Take the raw, uncooked potato and make sure that you roll it in the dirt and the finest of spices.
For those of you who don't know, that is from a lovely podcast called what, Blake?
Hello from the Magic Tavern.
Okay.
Usador's cooking show.
Nice.
Moving on.
I think,
So-
so back to the
Back to the question.
the races and stuff.
Yeah, the actual question is, what did you guys think of the design of them? Because I have my own thoughts about it, but I'll let you guys
So I think they made an interesting choice doing like costume and stuff like that over CGI, because had they done CGI, I think because it's like they were testing the waters in this movie to see
Like the
like how it
interest.
was how it was gonna go, and they poured their CGI budget into stuff like Thumberchod and the magic and the spell effects and stuff like that, like and you know, walking around on the big floating chain things over
Yeah.
lava in the Underdark, like they spent it on that, and so I think they chose to do costumes instead of CGI simply because it's better to have like a costume than crappy CGI.
Yeah.
Because if they had done just like really poor CGI for those things, we would have been like, oh wow, that was awful. So instead they did costumes, and like the Tabaxi looked a little jacked,
Yeah.
but I still think it'd be better than like a very, very obviously animated thing.
My thing is about the Tabaxi is I feel like they could have done something more like what they did in Harry Potter for Hermione. And that I think that would have looked a bit better than what they did.
Possibly. I don't know, because the thing in Harry Potter looked a little jacked
It
too.
did,
like...
but I thought it looked better than what they did in this movie.
But the Yuan-Ti looked amazing.
Yeah.
The Dragonborn, like, my only problem with it is, so he was in shadow, so you couldn't tell what color Dragonborn he was, and then based on like the design of his head and the shape of like the horns / weird little, I guess, tentacle things he had hanging off of him, I could not tell what kind of Dragonborn he was.
Yeah.
Because they all have very distinct looks based on what color they are, and with that one, I was just like, "What is this guy?" Like,
The Dragonborn was on the council, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was one on the council, and then there was also a homeless one when they were walking through the town.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
forgot about that one.
I think that was a red dragon, if I'm not mistaken.
I should have seen the movie twice before we did this.
Me too.
I like the Aarakocra, but that's just I have a soft spot in my. For
your first character ever was an Aarakocra.
Yeah,
and now
and so,
you're
like-
playing as a redux of him.
Yeah, better redux. There's this. I was trying to find it just a second ago. There's this movie where they have like black raven humanoids that like fly, but I can't remember what the movie is. And like I remember in that it looking like super cheap.
Hmm.
And like for this one, it looked like they actually spent the time to like fully flesh out and design it.
Yeah.
And the Aarakocra, I think, looked really good for like what it is.
Mhm.
Jonathan.
Yeah, Jonathan was amazing.
Yeah.
And like with the characters and with
the
those
Harpers. Jonathan knows about the Harpers.
with I know about the Harpers. Well, Friendly knows about the Harpers.
Do you know about the Harpers?
I mean, I watched a few YouTubes.
The ones I sent you
Yeah,
and nothing more.
I googled some stuff. I may have bought a pin on Etsy. Not yet. I want to. Just hide it on my clothes somewhere every week when we play.
Ooh.
But I didn't feel taken out of the movie by them because I feel like it is a different world, but also it's like different. They would look different. Like,
yeah.
Like what would a bird person look like in our world? Like,
Yeah.
They looked animal enough to where they weren't fully like recognized. Like,
Yeah.
they're humanoid, but they weren't human.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if they would have done it with CGI, it may have looked.
They would have humanized them.
Yeah,
too
they would have
much.
looked like too real.
It's
like I
really-
don't want too real.
It's really difficult to make the mouth movements of a like
a bird.
bird or a dragon type thing without just giving them a human mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Jonathan
That's
looked.
agreed.
Jonathan looked.
Jonathan.
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 Jaybird.
Don't call him Jaybird.
They like. It looked out of place, but in the right way.
Yeah.
Whereas the Tabaxis just looked creepy and like.
Yeah. I agree.
I could pull a cat out of a fish.
So, one note about the Aarakocra that I read online was the wings that they had on them
Yeah.
actually weighed like 600 pounds, and they actually had to like wire it up to hold it
It kind of
up.
looked like that because
Yeah.
when he started walking in the room,
It was
he was
all
kinda,
like, ooh.
and he was kind of walking like shuffly a little bit.
Yeah.
And then like
Which-
the wings looked like they were moving separately a little bit from
Slightly,
his
yeah.
back.
That was
A
the
little
issue I
marionette
had. Yeah.
style.
That was the issue I had with those is all the ones that were
600
costume-
pounds. What
yeah.
did they make those things out of?
I don't
Freaking
know.
tungsten?
They weigh a lot. Everybody knows that. Feathers weigh as much as lead.
Steel.
Steel.
No, because steel's heavier than feathers. Well, look how many there are. It's not fair. Steel's heavier than feathers.
But yeah, no, the costumed ones, the only issue I had was that it looked like they were cosplaying.
Mm-hmm.
And so like the movements were
Pretty
a little
good
bit
cosplay.
Oh yeah,
though.
really, really good cosplay. But the movement was a little bit off, like when the head would move, it would like sway.
Mm-hmm. The whole
a bit
body
more
kind of
and
had to go with it because the
yeah.
neck
Yep.
wasn't articulated well enough.
Yeah. So like as well as they did with it, I think it was a little bit underdone in my opinion, but still
I think it was just
amazing.
certain
Yeah.
ones.
Yeah.
Well, and
Like
again,
the Tabaxis were awful.
the
The
Tabaxis-
Yantis were like
Blah.
you only saw the Yanti from like
like
I think the
shoulders
Yanti
up.
the
was-
shoulder up and like so
The
like
Yanti was also more animated.
I think
than-
it was CGI. Yeah.
you think so?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it like came up to the bars of the prison cell and like it like flared its hood out and stuff like
And
that.
it was a
like,
very short scene, so they
could've-
probably had plenty
It
of.
just kind of like showed up and like, and then they moved on.
Yeah.
They've done it with the Dilophosaurus. They could have done it in real life.
This is true.
But again, as to your point of like it was a little kind of.
Iffy.
Wonky.
I think that still goes back to they're testing the waters. Like,
Yeah.
they know that Dungeons and Dragons has become like this huge hobby and like it's becoming more mainstream. So they're like, okay, well, let's test it out with a movie and like see if there's
Yeah.
any interest. And
Mhm.
like, you know, if it flops, it flops. And if it does well, then, you know, maybe we'll look into a second one, which they're talking about now because it did amazing.
Yeah, number one movie in the world, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fact check. True. Yeah. It did.
Which it deserves. I
Yeah.
fully agree. It deserves.
It did really well, and now I think if they come out with another one, you'll probably see a little bit higher production and quality.
Yeah.
You know, for things like that. Like if they decide to stick with the costumes, then they'll probably up the ante a little.
They'll
They'll
probably
hire Jim
enhance
Henson's
with
company.
CGI.
Yeah, probably do CGI enhancements just to deal with those problems of like okay, he turned his head and the neck looked a little wonky.
Yeah.
You know?
And like they might do like the wings as CGI instead of
What other CGI was there?
A lot of magic, a lot of spell casting. They did
the dragons, obviously.
A lot of the backgrounds.
Yeah.
They did Chungus the dragon.
That was the part where I like walked in from the bathroom and I was like, "Where did this giant dragon come in?"
Yeah, like,
they were just fighting a bunch of dudes, and now there's a dragon. Like,
It came on screen and I just immediately started laughing and I was like, "This thing is an absolute freaking unit! Like, what is up with this dragon?" And all I could think is the little like video that somebody made, like, what if animals were sphere shaped?
oh yeah,
And then when it started running after them and like tripping over itself and
start
falling
rolling.
and just rolling, I just immediately thought of that sphere-shaped cheetah chasing after the gazelle and trying to turn and just rolling off to the side and like, yeah, dude, this thing is just a ball of dragon.
Yeah. It's exactly what I thought of.
Part of that scene, I may just not be smart enough to understand, but like the stuff where he's like, "Oh, he tasted the water," it's like, "Oh, it's salt water." I was like, why does it matter what water it is, and why is it going to explode when the salt water goes off?
No.
Oh.
So it wasn't that. It was the water that was leaking in was salt water. So they knew they were underneath some sort of body of water. It wasn't coming from the Underdark because the
Okay.
Underdark has freshwater lakes and rivers and stuff like that. Or mineral lakes and stuff like that. So it's more like aquifers. So when he tasted that it was salt water, he knew we have to be near the coast. There is ocean above us, and if we can break this chamber, we can swim up.
See, this is probably where like the lore thing, and just knowing
yeah, a
and
little bit,
understanding.
yeah.
So he was trying to cause the explosion to shatter that chamber because he
Okay.
knew it was thin enough to where there's ocean water
coming
leaking
through.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if they can cause an explosion and break this stone, they can get out instead of
gotcha.
drowning.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
Yeah, it like I don't think it had as much to do with the lore as much as it does with like kind of seeing other movies where they do the same thing where like in Count of Monte Cristo where where they're digging through and he's like, "Oh, look, plant roots." And he's like,
Yeah.
"We're close
that
to the
makes sense.
surface."
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That kind of thing.
Yeah. We only have 8 years left. But anyway.
So I kind of want to address some of the community complaints that I've heard.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I've heard some that seemed a little bit valid and then some that were just absolutely ridiculous. So things that I've seen online, people complaining about different aspects of the movie. So I've heard two completely opposite complaints about it. One was that the movie took itself too seriously.
I didn't feel like it was
I have
serious.
no idea who watched that movie and thought it took itself too seriously. Because it was so...
I heard that too. I've heard a few things like that.
Like
too.
they were like, oh, it's too serious and it got dark and like all this stuff, and I'm like, did it get dark because you had a serious villain, or did it actually get dark? Because it did not get dark. Like the villain of the movie is like very evil and a well-established D&D villain that was pulling the strings behind everything, which I got excited about because as soon as they like showed him in the corner, I was like, oh, y'all are in trouble. I knew who it was, and then they name dropped him, and I was like, yep.
I just appreciate that they didn't use a villain that like everybody already knew about. Like they're not like, oh, this is Vecna, because like Vecna is in like everything nowadays.
Yeah, that was one of the things I saw everybody in the like, because we saw it the day after it came out, and people were like, oh, they used Vecna as the main villain, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of a bummer. And then it showed him like sitting in the shadows in the corner, and I was like, that's not Vecna.
That's super evil.
That
Voldemort.
is not Vecna. Which are we doing spoilers, or should I shut my mouth?
I did say spoiler alert.
Okay, well, spoiler alert.
Wait. Spoiler alert for the movie and for D&D.
Yeah, I guess.
What do you mean?
Okay, but the lore... the lore
Dungeons and Dragons, like the game, and then also in the movie.
The lore on D&D on this guy has been out for forever.
No,
so if you don't know about him now, you weren't going to learn about him. Like you don't care enough to like actually research it.
Why do I feel personally attacked by that?
You shouldn't, because I don't know it either. So
okay, so you see him in the corner, and they had already kind of mentioned red wizards, and you have the suspicion that okay, this chick is a red wizard. Like obviously, like there's something going on with her. Like she's got a shaved head. If you know about Thay, like that's a red wizard. And then like you see the guy in the corner, and I was like, that is Sastam. That is 100% Sastam. Like it has to be. Like I didn't think they were gonna go that big, and then they name dropped him, and I was like, yep. And Heather was like, why are you like getting all excited? I was like, you don't understand. This guy's big cheese. Like,
yeah.
So does that mean everyone who's bald is a red wizard?
So in Thay, it's kind of like a symbol of status. So it's a very the two main parts of their economy that they use is slave trade and magic items. And the slaves are forbidden from cutting their hair, shaving, anything like that. So they're just these like crazy wild-haired things. And then like the middle class people, they're allowed to cut their hair, but they are not allowed to shave their head. And then the red wizards, it's like a symbol of status and authority and power. They always shave their heads and then will get like different symbols and stuff tattooed on their scalp.
So I have status and power as a bald person.
Well, also if anybody is suspected of trying to impersonate a red wizard, so possibly somebody who is going bald, they think that you're shaving your head to impersonate a wizard, you are immediately put to death in a horrible fashion. So you might not be good in Thay. Yeah.
Does the beard help? Or
yeah, you also have a beard though, so like the beard would probably be like, look, I'm not trying to impersonate anybody. I can't grow hair up here. I have a beard. I'm not cutting.
It also grows everywhere else, so it's just.
but yeah, so I got crazy excited about that. Anyways, back to the complaints.
Yes.
The other opposite complaint I heard about it was the movie's too silly. Why couldn't they make a more serious fantasy movie?
Because it's D&D.
There were people crying in the theater.
Yeah.
In our party. That came with us.
Yeah, like my wife got all teary-eyed and it was hilarious.
I mean, obviously not me, though.
Yeah, because you have no emotion.
It's so true.
I actually did too, a little bit. But I'm not saying that out loud.
I may or may not have been silently judging you for crying. But, you know.
No, like, I
we had this conversation already, Matt.
once we got near the end of the movie, it was pretty clear that one of two things was going to happen. And so, like, I was pretty prepared for one of those two characters to go out.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
But yeah, it was still emotional, but I didn't get emotional. Like, I looked at Heather and I was like, you know it's going to be fine, right? Like, he has the thing. So, like...
Yeah.
But she was like, it's still, you know, and I was like, I get it.
Yeah, no, it's still an emotional moment because they're realizing, oh, she was the mother she never
the whole
had.
time, yeah. But the people complaining about it being too silly and full of shenanigans, like, friend,
have you never played D&D?
Have you played a single session of D&D or sat through a single session of D&D? There are enough shenanigans in 1 hour of gameplay to fill an entire book.
I mean, you can look at the three people in this room and like our characters and the shenanigans we get into.
I don't know what you're talking about. Worm has never gotten into shenanigans.
Okay, Worm gets into some. Lalander, like...
almost died from jumping in a river, didn't realize.
Yeah, and then...
how quickly the water was moving.
And then Friendly, he likes not ladyfingers, just finger food, really. Yeah. And has invested in personalized shears to...
Acquire said finger food?
Shears. I thought you said
shears.
shoes.
Like, no, they're sheep shears. And I spent, like... way too much money on them in game. Like,
yeah, because there's not really sheep in Icewind Dale.
Yeah, but there are fingers, and so yeah,
they're finger shears.
But yeah, so there were complaints that it was too serious, which is silly. There were complaints that it was too silly, which was also just ridiculous.
Too serious.
I mean, there were some valid complaints though,
such as
like the bard.
Yeah, so
not being a bard.
That's what I was going to get into. Is my one and only complaint is they had a bard in the movie that could not cast a single spell. Like he never cast a spell in the entire movie, and
well, not all bard. Like not every bard can do spells.
Every single bard, like character class bard, is a spellcaster.
I mean,
all of them.
And you could have at least done like minor illusion.
They're not only spellcasters; they're good spellcasters.
Yeah.
Sorry, does that need to be? Does that need to have a Tootsie Fruits over it or something like that? like they're really good spellcasters, and they made him a planner, and they kind of, I guess, gave him the ability for bardic inspiration, but like that was it.
Yeah.
He didn't even do vicious mockery, which is like.
That's the bread and butter of bards. Yeah.
I mean, like being able to impose disadvantage on their next attack, like that's huge.
Just by calling them a doo-doo head.
Yeah, yeah.
I did realize later after watching the movie. So you know that first fight scene, right, where they're about to be executed, and Holga goes all crazy and just starts like messing people up. I realized in that fight, while he's like trying to cut his bonds and stuff on the stairs and stuff, he's giving her bardic inspiration the whole time, because he's literally just like encouraging her. He's like,
"You got this."
He's sawing at the.
You're doing so good.
Well, he's sawing on the step, right? And like she gets like thrown against a wall, like thrown down on the ground and like kicked or something. And he's like, "Oh, we got him on the ropes now." I'm like, was that bardic inspiration? Like, what?
It's definitely very possible.
Yeah, so I did have a slight complaint about the fact that the bard could cast no magic.
Yeah, I've seen so many like comments on it where he wasn't actually a bard.
But then what would he be?
He was like, I'm trying to remember what they said. It was
because he literally did nothing. Like you can't even say he's like a tavern brawler or like anything like that. Because like
there was one point where he hit somebody with his loot, which I'm like, okay, well that thing's broken now. Like, way to go.
Yep.
The other thing, because masterclass for Matt is druid, and so like those were like minor complaints that she like wild shaped like 15 times.
Yeah,
And I was
the
like-
other one I heard was like, oh, you can't wild shape into an owlbear. Bro, who cares?
Yeah.
If your DM lets you wild shape into an owlbear, wild shape into an owlbear.
Would you allow it?
No,
Probably not.
not with, especially not with friendly.
No, simply because doing that would open the door to other monstrosities.
Mm-hmm.
And once you go from beasts to monstrosities, like the owlbear could be an exception because it doesn't have all these like extra abilities.
But when
once
you turn into a bullet or
yeah, once you get into other monstrosities and you end up with bullets and other weird, crazy, wacky monstrosities, the druid goes from being one of the best classes in the game to just being absolutely freaking broken and unstoppable.
Mm-hmm.
well, and that's also why
Because a CR1 beast and a CR1 monstrosity, there's a big
Yeah.
power gap there.
Yeah.
that's why Wizards of the Coast
Wizards of the Coast.
the cost they changed like in I think it was like 3rd edition or 4th edition, like the bullet and then the rock is that ROK?
ROC.
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 Yeah.
That was back then it was an animal. Like
Mhm.
it was a beast. And
Yeah,
then
I think so.
and then they switched it.
I think the owlbear was a beast as
And
well.
I think at one point I was like, "Hey Blake, these used to be beasts. Can I do that?" And he's like,
No.
Shut up. Stop talking." All right. So like being a bullet or being an owlbear would have been sick.
Yeah.
But in the movie, it took me out a little bit because it was like that's not a wild shape. Like
It didn't bother me too much because they also didn't give her any other spell casting.
yeah, I mean
Like
she
she
only
could
did
wild shape and that was it.
Yeah.
yeah.
She uses all her spell slots to wild shape.
That was like
That's not how any of this works.
that definitely seemed like how the movie was going. Like when
They focused on the main.
yeah, they focus on the main thing that each class can do, except for
the bard.
the bard, where they're just like, we're gonna let him just play an instrument and he can think. That's it.
Yeah.
And he inspires people. That's about it.
Yep. And I think that did show through quite a bit throughout the movie where like when the sorcerer was always like, oh, I can't do all this. I can't blah, 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 blah. Like he would, even if it was lying, he would go up and be like, hey, no, you can do this.
Yeah.
You
And-
just have to think you can.
And I honestly, I did like that about the sorcerer because some people also complained about that. They're like, the sorcerer should have been able to do magic. And I'm like, look, sorcery is charisma based,
Yep.
right? And if he has no self-confidence, if you have a low charisma, your spellcasting is going to be a little jacked up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like until he got to the point where he believed in himself, he was pretty much a worthless sorcerer. Like he could cast prestidigitation and fresh cut grass, which there's your critical role thing. Like I'm glad you were there because I that's a gap in my knowledge. I have not seen much of Critical Role at all.
Yeah. Season 3 has a character named Fresh Cut Grass, which like I was happy and kind of disappointed that they didn't have a different character.
Yeah.
Or at least the character there. But go ahead.
But yeah, so like I thought that was neat because it's like, yeah, so it is charisma based and he has low charisma. He's kind of a dork and he has no self-confidence. So like, yeah.
And he sucks with women.
That's partially due to his low
Yeah, I
charisma.
know.
Like you're gonna have issues with using magic because you don't believe you can.
Yeah. And that is something I really liked about this movie was that they went into that part of D&D of like you're supposed to have flaws. You're supposed to have
And
these things
and stuff. Like
Yeah.
it's literally on the character sheet.
Yeah.
Like what is your character's thing?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it makes it feel more like that game of like, okay, these people have problems and they can't do what they're supposed to do because they're like low level or whatever, but they're trying to get better. That's what D&D is about. It's starting off as a goofball, like can't do nothing kind of person, and then grow and build your character so that it's something that will save the world.
Exactly.
But I mean, I do wish that they would have been not so focused on like the single thing.
Yeah.
Like a druid has
Yeah.
control over their animals, but like also they can do like entangle and they can do like all of the other stuff where like there's so much development to where Dorkin.
Yeah. No, Doric.
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 That's better than
Doric.
Dorkin.
way better.
Doric, like, should have been able to, like, when she was being chased, like, wind wall. And just,
Yeah.
because if she's at high enough levels to where she can do all the other things, like all the different wild
That
shapes.
was a ridiculous amount of wild shapes.
So the wild shapes, but also, like, what she was turning into would have been, I mean, the owl bear is, like, what CR?
3?
So, like, if she's able to go into CR3, then she's
high.
that would mean that if she's a Circle of the Moon, she's at least a 6th level.
Yeah.
And so, like, she would have had wind wall, or, like, all of the other things that she could have just, like, oh, you're going to chase me? Right behind me, and just, like, totally block it. And then...
So, I will say that...
Yeah, it's a CR3.
Yeah, I will say that particular... I feel like it might have made them OP if they were.
Yeah.
Because, like, they were focusing on those single things because, like, if they were being chased by a regular human guard person, like, any magic would have been like, there's no reason to fight because they would never be able to do anything.
Well, not necessarily, because that time when she was getting chased, she wasn't just getting chased by the guards. She was getting chased by a 20th level wizard. Like...
What? Oh, that's right. She was.
Yeah, like she was casting stuff like Time Stop and Animate Objects and, like, all the Finger of Death and, like, all these really high level spells that it's like, this is not just like some wizard. This is a fairly, if you can cast Time Stop, you are the BBEG. Like, you have, you're high enough level to be a big threat to a party of 4 player characters. Like,
yeah, especially
like that druid
if they're only 6th level.
Yeah, that druid needs to run. Like, and so, like,
is that what it says? Is there 6th level?
I don't know. I don't think it says.
You downloaded the things from.
I think these are just base.
Oh, okay. It doesn't show, like, levels and stuff.
Challenge 5.
Okay.
So, would that make them 5th level?
That would make them a little higher than 5th level, because a CR5 is a threat to a party of 4 5th level characters.
Okay.
So higher than 5th level.
Okay, got it. So they're at least 6th level or higher.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I can see why they didn't do it, but at the same time,
it would have complicated things in the movie too.
Yeah,
because it would have added in a lot more CGI. It would have added in a lot more, like, having to develop their character. And while this was like a quote unquote origin story for these guys, like, it would have involved, like, showing, like, how you obtained all this information, how you did all of this. And it did allow for some, like, comical stuff. So, like, when Edgin
Yep,
was, like, coming in and, like, playing the lute, and then, like, his face started to melt because like, Simon got nervous. Like, it makes sense.
He
and,
got
like,
stuck and stopped focusing on
so funny.
Dude, when his head shrunk into his body, I was like, oh, that's so creepy. That's so bad. But I mean, it makes sense because, like, Edgin would have more charisma as like a bard, and so he would be able to cast that spell better.
He should have been able to cast that spell himself, though.
Yeah, he should have been able to do it himself.
He should have had access to that spell to be able to cast it.
Would that have been minor illusion or major illusion?
So minor illusion, I think, is a static object. It can't move. So I think it would have, and then silent image would have been, as it says in the name, silent. So you can animate it and move it, but it's silent.
Right.
So it would either have to be a combination between minor illusion and silent image, or major illusion.
Yeah.
Which would make sense as to why Simon couldn't do it.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm so glad, by the way, that you don't have to roll to attune to stuff.
Oh.
Like the whole thing with Simon and, like, his great-great-grandfather or whatever, like, if that was, like, in D&D, that would be so terrible.
It's an option in D&D. There are...
Please don't.
So there's if I'm not mistaken, there's an option for more complicated attunement in the Dungeon Master's Guide. However, there's also options for what I call meat grinder mode in the Dungeon Master's Guide, where, like, anytime you take any kind of injury, like, a long rest is, I think, a month and a short rest is a week. So like
Ugh.
it makes it more gritty and realistic, but it's also like, yeah, you're not gonna get if you have a time limit on anything, you're kind of just screwed.
Isn't
Like,
that
Yeah.
also like the one where like you can actually have body parts lopped off and
Yeah.
then you like never get
Yeah.
it back?
yeah,
See, I don't
you
mind
get it back
the,
if you get regenerate.
yeah, I don't mind the idea of that being a possibility, but
Just not a guaranteed
not a
thing.
guaranteed
Yeah.
like.
Starfinder, ladies and gentlemen.
But like, there's ways around it though, like with
Mage hand,
magicians
yeah.
or with artificers or whatever.
Yeah.
Like you can have mage hand, you can have bionic things. Like there's options to fix the problem.
Yeah.
You know,
Or you just play a gobbly-goopy guy like me.
right? So
And,
you can
like-
grow another
Yeah.
another hand.
Even with that, I would probably make it like as a permanent, or like not permanent, but like a temporary thing. Like if Friendly loses an arm, it's gonna take him a while
It's
to
like
regrow
Deadpool.
that
It's
body
like
mass.
Deadpool where
Yeah.
he's got the little baby arm.
Like, because as you eat, you grow constantly, and like that's the way you reproduce is you grow enough until you split off another like baby mock. So basically, if you were to lose an arm or a leg or a body part of some kind, like I would probably have it be a while before you get that
So
back.
so
Like
here's
you
a
have
question.
to generate that body mass before you get it again.
So here's the question about the arm that he lost though. Would that turn into another mock?
That is a good question. And seeing as how we have not gotten there, I do not feel the need to figure that out and answer it right now.
I need to know right now so I know if the next time we're like losing really bad, if I just need to chop off my arm.
No, because if I give you that right now, then you're gonna like next session, you're just gonna start like shearing off your fingers and making new tiny friendlies. And I don't want to. I don't
Be
want
my
to.
little buddies.
I don't want to deal with that right now. Like,
It's your druidic create animals or whatever, like conjure animals.
Animals, just like, take my shears, chop, 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 chop.
And they all turn into animals.
no.
That'd be so disgusting.
It'd be hilarious though.
I think something we need to talk about, because it is important, is the weapons in the movie.
Oh yeah,
Because, you know, there were really cool ones. Like when the druid had the slingshot or like the sling on her arm, like I had never thought of using it like that
Yeah.
in game, and
Yeah, that
like
did look
having
neat.
something built in, and like because you could also then like while it's on your arm cast magic stone right there.
Yep.
And then
And
just,
then just yeah.
yeah.
Or-
That's a really good idea, actually.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
I'm playing a warlock with magic stone in a different campaign.
you don't have a
and-
sling though.
But that's what I'm saying. Is like I could try to
Yeah.
make one or something. And
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Remy's
That'd be
just gonna
really
take
cool.
off his underwear in game. Like, all right, I got this. Let's go. We get that band out of there.
Bold of you to assume we're gonna survive another session. We both just died in the last one.
You two died.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was me and
Yeah,
me
yeah.
and him. He and
Um,
I.
And then- So there was the sling, which is super cool. There's a loot, which would have broken the first time it hit someone.
Unless it's a magical loot.
There was the DMPC.
I loved that was the DMPC because when that paladin came on, I forget his name, but he was
Zenk.
Zank.
Zank, yeah.
He was talking, and I was just like, God, I hate this guy. He's so He's a DMPC. That's why he's so insufferable. He's the DMPC. Like, he knows the answer to all the puzzles. He knows exactly where the item they're looking for is. Like, he knows where to go. He knows how to get through all this. And like, he had that fight with, like, the, like, 4 or 5 Thayan assassins and was, like, just, like, obliterated them all and then, like, saved him from the dragon, like, jumped and, like, had the epic stabbed it in the head. And, like, I was like, he's the DMPC.
Andy had sick hair.
Yeah.
Like,
I was like, that's why I hate this guy so much. I think that was intentional. I think they really wanted to give the feel of this is how players feel when you put a DMPC into the game and you're like, this is my Mary Sue. Everyone loves him and the whole town is like fawning over him and like everybody has these stories of like, oh yes, he one time killed a beholder with a sharpened gourd. Like,
I think I love that was at the end credits. That was
yeah,
so
these
funny.
credits it's
I-
like animated
I think
in there.
the thing that really sold it for me, as in like it being the DMPC, is like when he's walking away and Edgin is just like, oh, is he gonna go around? And he just goes,
He's walking so straight. Let's see if he walks into those rocks. He walked
Like,
over them.
100%. That's how a DMPC just leaves the game. Just like, oh, he just shuffles off and he's gone.
Just
Yeah.
straight line away from you all. Like,
His sword was really cool.
his sword was really cool.
So cool. Where the little
you gonna
dagger
talk
comes
about it or
out.
just
from,
be like,
yeah.
it's neat.
I mean, so I only saw like part of it because I went to the bathroom, as we
So
mentioned.
the sword separates the blade from a smaller blade. Like it's almost like a
but it like
a
shot
sheath.
out, right?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
he like he shot it.
Oh, he like flicked it and it went
Yeah.
off?
I think so.
And then he was wielding
Like, I don't think it was spring-loaded or
while the blade
anything.
was stuck into the guy's chest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did see that part. That was pre-bathroom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, PB.
And then afterwards he went and like put it back in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like a blade sheath.
Yeah. It was pretty neat.
Yeah. I really like that
It was
one.
a cool trick weapon.
The most impressive weapon was the +5 potato.
Yeah.
Like, just straight
right into the rogue's
yeah,
face.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And
that
a hot
actually
potato.
No, that one was uncooked.
Oh, it was uncooked?
Yeah, that one was
just,
uncooked.
So
sitting
that
there,
was just
there was
just force
like a-
damage.
Yeah, there was
Yeah.
just like a bludgeoning.
Bludgeoning.
Please.
Sorry. Like I said, non-DM.
So that actually, with her doing all those attacks and stuff like that, that actually brings me to the final complaint that I heard about the movie, which I found to be, again, like, have you ever played D&D? I just don't think you understand how the classes work. So a bunch of people were complaining because they said that, oh, they put the women on the front lines and emasculated the men by having them stick to the back and do planning. And I'm like, guys, you had a barbarian and a druid, which
Yep.
are the two classes that my wife plays as. She loves barbarians and druids. Those are frontline like characters. I like spellcasters. So like in the campaign that we played last night, I'm a sorcerer. My wife is a fairy barbarian. So like she's like real tiny but really strong and like runs to the front of combat while my guy is like trying to stay as far back as he can because he's squishy.
Super
Yeah.
squishy.
He's pudding soft. So like if you sneeze
What
at
a
him,
way to describe your character.
if you sneeze at him, he will die.
Maybe you should like explain like the hit point difference between like Heather's barbarian
Yeah.
and
Okay.
you,
So
or like
so,
Olga and Holga and
yeah, so a barbarian will have a 12-sided die as their hit die, which every time you roll, like level up, you roll a hit die, quote unquote, to see how much health you get added to your maximum. So barbarians get a 12-sided die. Sorcerers get the Monopoly die. They get a d6, and then you add your Constitution modifier, which for barbarians, Constitution is one of your main stats.
Yeah.
So you're going to get a pretty good static number added to that 12-sided die. So the maximum you can get as a barbarian, if you have maxed out charisma, is a 17 to your hit points, and then you can
by
get
first level.
Hmm?
Oh, by first level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, and if you're leveling up and you roll a 12 and you have a +5 to your
yeah.
Constitution, like that's another 17 that you just threw on top of there. The maximum, and this is if you have maxed out your Constitution for a sorcerer, is 11.
But if you max out I mean, that would make no sense to
Yeah,
do
if you
it
max out
anyways.
your Constitution, like, yeah, it's a good stat to have, but like it's
not your
it's
strong
not your
suit.
main one.
Yeah.
You
I mean,
want-
if you're
you
planning
want-
on drinking
you
a
want
lot as a
charisma.
character, that's really
Okay, but you want charisma because that's your spellcasting.
Yeah.
Everything you do is going to be based off of your spellcasting stat. And so, because I wanted to be able to roleplay him as a backliner that thinks he's a frontliner, I gave him only a +1 in his Constitution. So he is pudding soft. Like,
yeah.
the maximum amount of health he can get in a level up is 7.
And you're at like 13 right now.
I'm at 13.
Yeah.
So I almost rolled maximum.
And me as a fighter, we're at second level, and I'm at 21.
Yeah.
And so like,
Yeah.
there's a big difference.
There-
And you're squishy too.
Yeah. I'm at 19.
So you're only semi-squishy.
But even you
I'm
as a
semi-squishy.
warlock, you get a D8 versus a D6.
Right, yeah.
Like-
and a fighter gets a D10.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then our rogue also gets a D8.
I was gonna say there's a reason for that meme about or that description. I don't know what it was, but about the barbarian who's like, I'm the meat shield. I paid for 200 hit points. I
Yeah.
will use 200 hit
Why
points.
do I have to resurrect you in every single fight? I paid for 200 hit points. I'm using 200
Right.
hit points. Yeah. So Holga and God, I keep messing.
Doric? Yeah.
Holga and Doric are the frontliners.
Yeah.
100%, because Doric can wild shape and get all those extra hit points. Holga has rage, takes half damage, and has more chunky hit points if we're looking at game mechanics only. So the people that were like, oh, they're emasculating the men by putting them on the back line. Dude, you don't understand D&D mechanics.
Yeah.
She's a frontliner because she picked a frontline class.
Yeah.
There's nothing emasculating about it. And
that would explain why she's a dagger magnet.
Mm.
I would say too soon, but
but the ending of that movie just kind of negates that.
Yeah. but I mean, and I don't even feel like he was emasculated by being on the back line, because he was still the heart of the party.
Yeah.
He was still the one that came up with all the plans. Everybody listened to him. Everybody followed him. And what part of that is emasculating to have people that look up to you and listen to you, even though they are way more physically powerful than you?
Yeah.
Because everybody in that party...
Well, Simon was more powerful than him.
Everybody in that party could have very easily taken him out.
Yeah.
But
that's not how D&D works. You don't kill your friends.
I mean, you're not supposed to, but I've definitely been in things where, I've DM'd before where there was about to be a player versus player fight, and I was just sitting there my butt was so puckered right there, because I was like, please don't do this.
I want to go back and mention another thing real quick, and everybody will have seen it because it's part of the trailers and stuff, but the cemetery scene.
Oh my god, that was so funny.
that was just a DM that was so sick of the players' crap that they're like, all right, fine, deal with this.
Every time, question, the first one was just question. It was like, yes, yes, yes.
Did you die in the Battle of the Evermoors?
Yes.
It's 5 questions, right?
Yes.
Oh no. Did that count? Yes. Just using all of your questions. The DM just being a jerk and using all your questions. And I'm like,
yep.
I respect that.
They just did, in the episode of Critical Role that I watched, Pike just cast that.
Oh, really?
And the way that Mercer did it is that she was the only one who was able to ask the question.
I think that's how the spell
and so,
actually works.
So, the other team could feed, the rest of Vox Machina could feed questions to Pike. And then as long as she didn't ask a question, then it was fine.
The way that he runs it apparently is the person who casts it is the only person who can see it raise.
Yeah, I think that's how the spell actually works. I'm checking on that right now.
Yeah, they did it in the dungeon. What was it?
What season?
In season 1. The
Crack Hammer?
You posed.
The dwarf one?
No. It was just recently. It was
we're at completely different spots, so it's hard for me to remember.
No, I can't remember it, but it was.
I mean, it's an awesome spell, and it was really, really funny.
Yeah.
At the end, when the guy was like, is anybody there? Will someone ask me a question? I leaned over at my wife and I was like, babe, that's a question. And she was like,
can't ask itself.
I know. And then she was like, Matt, he can't ask himself a question and die. And I was like, I guess that makes sense.
So technically the way the spell works, so everybody can see it and they can hear the spell, the spirit talking. But it says it's questions that you pose.
Yeah.
So
the only person
technically Simon should have been the only one that could ask it questions. But
oh yeah.
Yeah, but that doesn't really bother me. But he was also, I think he was using an item to do that.
Yeah, he was. He had an item. So I mean, it kind of negates whatever it is, and it can be whatever.
Yeah, that's probably how it was. Is it was the item does the spell, and so whoever is there can ask things.
Dude, the eyeball guy with the arrow. That
oh
was
my
so
God.
I know that was hard for you, Blake.
That popped up, and I just went, ooh, nope.
For those of you who don't know, Blake hates eye injuries.
Yeah, eyeball stuff is It's the only time that I get empathetic pain. So whenever I see some sort of eyeball injury or a person describes an injury that happened to their eye, like I will literally get a splitting headache that is focused on my eyeball. And just like, okay, please stop. Don't go any further. Like I can feel what just happened to you. So it's like, knock it off. And like, it just takes me out. So like I was watching like, and that wasn't so bad because it was very obviously like costumed. So I was like, oh, that's kind of gross. Like, ew.
That scene was so funny.
It was
one of the best scenes in the movie. Like it was
having to go to like different ones and like, oh, I died before that.
Yeah, it's like,
I think something that
wait, you still have to ask me another question. I don't know. What's your favorite? Like, just like asks like something personally about the guy. Like, what did you do? Ask him what his favorite color was, or what his favorite food was.
Favorite food.
What his favorite food was.
Well, I don't know. It's
no. That one he just named something very simple. Like he was like, oh, like.
No, he had like a moment of like, well, I have a couple of different things that I like.
No, that was the last one. But one of the other ones, like he was still awake, and they asked, like he's like, "Oh, you could ask me another question," and they're like, "What's your favorite food?" And then like he names something just like ridiculous, like very simple, like he's like, "Oh, carrots," and then just like it wasn't that, but it was something that simple, and they're just like, "Okay." The other guy, they ask him something, and he starts going on this long explanation, and they just walked off.
Yep.
And then he finishes, and is like.
But you still have to ask me another question.
You still have to ask me one more question.
I think, speaking of root vegetables, we need to talk about Holga's ex-husband. Because Bradley Cooper was so weird.
Bradley
and I was
Cooper
just
as a halfling.
I was just like...
That's into large women.
I looked at my wife and I was like, Rachel, is that? And she's like, yeah, that is. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Why?
Okay. So, another design question.
Mm-hmm.
The halflings.
Yeah.
They were just scaled down people.
Yeah.
I don't like
that. Was it a halfling or was it a gnome?
I think it was a halfling. Because that was definitely a hobbit hole. Like, that was definitely built.
But he was wearing shoes.
Halflings in D&D wear shoes.
Lame.
I think
they're not Tolkien's hobbits.
That's the thing, though, is I would much rather that style of it than the scaled down CGI thing.
But that's also like
CGI,
just like a
like,
cultural thing. Like that's how we've grown up thinking of halflings.
Well, also like hobbits are just kind of scaled down. Like even if you watch Lord of the Rings, they don't have. It's not like real world dwarfism where like they're kind of out of proportion. They're just smaller people. Like
just because some of them are chunky doesn't mean that they all have to be chunky. It's not the animated Lord of the Rings movie,
right?
Which like they look completely different, but. I actually kind of liked it. Like it worked for me. It
was just a little weird. I don't mind it.
I think part of the problem was like we're used to.
It was the green screen thing.
We're used to like what it looks like in Lord of the Rings, where you have two different sized people. Like Gandalf and Frodo look completely different than like Holga and
they looked like they looked like they were on the same plane. It didn't look like it was green screened in the Lord of the Rings, whereas this one it was a very but again that goes back to new movie, possible franchise. They're testing the waters. They didn't want to spend, millions of dollars to make Bradley Cooper look like he's a small person next to this large woman. They just like
let's throw in this comedic thing. It'll be so funny.
Let's just green screen this in real quick and like get it done because it's this very short little snippet of the movie. Like, again, I think if they do make another one, that'll be something that's on the improvements. Like,
I think they could easily do something like what they did with Steve Rogers in the Captain America movie, where they like superimpose his face on a smaller person, but like then scale it down a little bit.
Oh, dude, that was so weird.
Honestly, they did a really good job with it, though.
But it was so weird because they couldn't really make his face look non-muscular.
Right, yeah.
So like he still had like the cut jawline and everything,
chisel,
and like the big like bulldog head, and then like little scrawny like me before I got fat body. Like
Marleman.
Marleman was his name?
Marleman was his name. Was Bradley Cooper's name.
Yeah.
He's very far down on the IMDb. Like very, like they were very much trying to hide that.
In there for like a little bit.
Yeah.
Like
I love that.
I love
that at the end. She like sees another one. And he's
like getting the metal pinned by the halfling, and it's just like.
Hey, what's
How
up?
you doing?
Yeah, basically gave him the how you doing. Like, looked him up and down.
Yeah, just like that. Just like
Hey,
that.
Isaiah was not in that movie.
I know.
Hey, girl, hey.
Was there? Okay, so there were like a few other cameos in there. So obviously, like the original D&D animated movie
Yep.
was in there.
The fresh cut
And
grass.
The fresh cut grass. Bradley Cooper, and then there was apparently some like rock star that was in there, but I didn't know who it was. It was in like the IMDb trivia, but I didn't know who it was.
Oh, okay.
And then
You don't remember the name?
nah,
Oh, okay.
nah.
Why'd you mention it? Though?
I don't know.
Just
I don't
kidding.
know.
Way to go, Matt. You're dumb.
Yeah, I'm dumb. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Whatever.
This is why Matt doesn't DM.
It's true. I just don't. Some people enjoy DMing. I like playing. I like playing like crazy psychotic people.
I like a good mixture of both.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Because I
I
love
like playing a lot. But
I love to DM, but I also every now and then like to cut loose and play a character like Dax, who's squishy sorcerer but thinks he's a frontline fighter, so he puts on brass knuckles, which are his spellcasting focus, and tries to go to town on somebody. Has all these touch-based spells that he flavors as just punching them.
What did you guys think of the monsters in the movie? So like the Displacer Beast.
Oh, dude.
That thing was sick.
The displacer
The
I
beast.
mimic-
love the like
the mimic was
animated,
really
the
good.
animated like tentacles like moving
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like causing the
Like he created an illusory image instead of just being blurred.
yeah.
Mhm.
I
That
thought
was
that was
really
neat.
cool.
Like, because if he was just blurred, then I don't feel like it would have given full effect to how difficult it is to fight a displacer beast.
Yeah.
And
then-
pretty
so
kitty.
there was the Displacer
A kitty
Beast.
whippings.
There was
Yeah.
the mimic.
The mimic
Yeah.
went down way too easy.
Yeah, it went down way too
Yeah.
easy. And I'll
Like
always love
they hit
mimics.
it once, and I was like, mimics are pretty tough, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they cut off its tongue and that was it.
Yeah. Like they're amorphous blobuses. You cut off its tongue, and it's probably just gonna make another appendage to attack you with.
Yeah.
Like,
And then the acid jello, the gelatinous.
The
The
jello.
gelatinous cube. Yep.
How did you feel about them being able to go through the gelatinous cube?
I liked how they did it.
yeah, like she made the dove into it and like kept her finger on the outside so
Yeah.
that she could like
Snake through
wild
it.
Turn
shape
into a
into a
snake.
serpent and
Yeah.
slither through that spot, because it does take a little bit for it to close. And so like if she did that, like I'd allow that.
Yeah.
That was fair. But I think they were inconsistent with how hard it is to get out of it, because like that first spot, like she fell into it and like her arms were in and she couldn't get out and needed somebody to pull her out.
Yeah.
And so like, okay, she does not have the high enough strength score to pull herself out of it. How did she pull somebody else out of it?
Hmm.
That was my question.
Would you have
with
wanted
that.
to see her like wild shape into something with like a stronger strength?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Like get out of it and then like warp into a bear or something and
Yeah.
like reach in and grab them.
But bears don't have hands.
So
They could.
okay, okay.
It causes more damage while they're in there.
Speaking of wild shapes,
Okay. The deer.
no, not
That was funny.
That,
That
was
was
funny.
funny.
That was funny, but it was not as funny as the Hulk v Loki moment that she had with the wizard in the end.
Oh yeah.
Where she just like wild shapes in that, like, oh, I did this so that he could do this, so that she could do this, and just rah, like just starts smashing her into the ground. And it's like she finally like stops like hitting her and batting at her, and like, I think you got her, and she looks over and then just like go 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 go, like starts beating on her again. Like I just died laughing at that part, like, because at
Like,
first,
why don't you just die?
like at first I was like, oh yeah, it's Hulk versus Loki, and then it just kept going, and I was the longer it went on, the funnier it
the
became. to
only
me.
thing that would have made it better is if they'd panned it to the Red Wizard and just went.
No, because I'm pretty sure she was dead.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm
she
sure.
was
I'm pretty
definitely
sure
dead.
she killed her. Like,
Last breath sort of thing.
Death
show the
rattle like
death
you were talking
rattles.
about last night.
you learned a new word last night.
Yeah.
Now you're like, hey, Blake said death rattle last night, so I'm gonna say it now.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm trying to think like back on the movie if there's like really anything else that was like crazy awesome. Like the scene
whole
was,
movie.
Yeah, I mean the whole movie was so great. The portal gun thing,
Yeah.
super cool.
The hither and thither
like
stuff.
yeah. I want it in all of the D&D campaigns.
Especially because in our Witchlight campaign, we're going through hither, thither, and yon, and I'm like, hither and thither stack.
Yeah. And then
Maybe that's how we get through to the next
Maybe. We'll see. I don't know. I'm not running it.
portal gun from hither to thither.
But it only goes between the two. You can't go to yon.
Right. Exactly.
For that, you have to literally yawn, and then you just like jump into somebody's mouth.
Please no.
One person has to stay up for 3 days, get 3 points of exhaustion, yawn really loud, and then you jump into their mouth.
I'm not doing that.
I know. Me neither.
How about we just
Your
get the
only
feather
healer
to yawn?
does not need to have exhaustion.
Anyway, we've gone on for far too long.
We could go on the full
I was
length
gonna
of the
say,
movie.
I was gonna say,
134 minutes is.
I do think the other fun part was after the movie. Now this was just fun for me. Like after the movie, everybody kind of came up and was like, "Okay, so Blake, explain this," and I was like, "All right,
Well,
so
you see,
story time." So
Blake
long,
literally
long
pulled out
ago-
a scroll, people. He was just like, whoa, this is my D&D information.
Long ago, after the fall of the Emeskari Empire, like to explain truly who Zastam is, we got to go back.
Blake started doing this, and I looked at my cup, and I was like, I could get more to drink, and I just walked away.
And I did like that there was a bit of lore that I didn't know, like who Thumberchod was, because Chungus.
Chungus.
yeah, big fat boy.
But like I did look it up, and he's been around since like 3rd edition.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, so like
Since
he's an established character.
Episode 1.
No,
But
he's
hasn't
been
been.
around since show 1, and he still doesn't have a name. No, but like he's been around for several editions, and it was fun that they added like the comment of like, oh, he's found a new layer, because like when I did go and do the research on him, like that's kind of a significant thing for his character, because he was trapped where he was because he got so fat that he could not leave.
Mhm.
Like
Been
like
there.
he literally like laments the fact that he's going to be trapped in the Underdark for the rest of his very long life, because he's become so rotund that like he says, even if I were to destroy this palace, I would never be able to claw my way to the surface.
Wow.
That's crazy.
I think that's one thing I felt like was missing too, was that dragons can talk.
Yeah.
Like I think he should have been able to have a small conversation, not like a big long thing, but just like
to,
a little.
to say
Just
something,
like, you
yeah.
look so tasty.
like
Something
chasing
like that.
chasing after them and just be like,
Get over here.
Yeah.
like, you know, some
Scorpion now?
sort of huh?
Is Scorpion now?
Yeah.
Get in my belly.
Get over here.
Yeah. I also one last little thing. So Ed Green, one of the creators of Forgotten Realms. I
Okay.
think he might be the guy that came up with the setting. He posted online, he was like, I saw in the credits a lot of the people, like the names of people who actually work on creating D&D and making the rules and like doing this type of thing. And he was like, I didn't see my name in it, but I don't care.
Mhm.
He was like, I saw the name of the creators that keep this game going, and I saw the names of like all these like important people in Wizards of the Coast and in the community at large, and like I loved this movie. I loved getting to see my creation coming to life like on a big screen in a wonderful way.
Mhm.
And he's like, I will be going and seeing it again. I will be purchasing multiple tickets to watch this movie over and over again. And he was like, and so should everybody else, because
Yeah.
this was beautiful. And I was like, I like that. Like when he was even saying like, he's like, I didn't see my name in the credits, but there were also people standing up, so it might have been in there. I'm not sure. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like he was like, I don't even have to have credit for this, but I loved this movie. I loved seeing.
Yeah.
Like I love that D&D's becoming a big thing.
Yeah.
And was like, go and support this. This was great.
Yeah. I think the thing about it is that as far as I know, that like he probably didn't contribute to the movie itself. Those
Yeah.
people might have actually been a part
Mhm.
of the writing team or
You say that,
Something
but
like
but
that.
for the person who made
oh no, I know.
Forgotten
I know.
Realms,
They probably
like,
should have been like a little
Thanks to Ed Green.
thanks to
But,
Ed Green.
I mean,
for,
and they might
yeah.
have. I didn't check to see if he was in
Yeah.
the credits either, but like he did this like long Twitter like thread that was just like, this is awesome. If you haven't seen it, go see it. Like this movie is wonderful.
Yeah.
Like if you like
It
D&D or want to get into D&D or anything, like, watch this movie.
Yeah. It is nice to see someone that, like, who created it to be excited about a Hollywood movie like that. Because a lot of times there's always, like, big issues between creators and the movie writers. Because it's like, well, I did this and we made it different. And it's like, okay, come on.
I know it's kind of silly to say, but I would love to hear Gygax's opinion on this if he was still around. Like,
oh, the guy that created D&D.
Gary Gygax. Like, just because I know that Forgotten Realms wasn't his thing. He did Greyhawk, but like, just to see like what this like little game that he made for his buddies in his basement, and like to see what it's become now.
Yeah.
And like see how widespread this is, enough to where it's got like #1 movie in the world right now. Came from this like thing that he made. And like, let's be honest, when he created Dungeons and Dragons, he was not great at, like, he was a great storyteller and a great like game master, but he was not good at making rules for games. A lot of run-on sentences and a lot of mechanics that were just like, what on earth is that?
Yeah.
But
which is why there are no rules. And
yeah, but like, he created this thing for his friends and a group of other people, and like, it has blown up into this massive like worldwide sensation nowadays with the advent of 5th edition, and like,
thanks to Critical Role and Stranger Things.
So I think a good question, like final question, might be like,
we keep saying that.
Yeah.
Well, no. So I think this might help it wrap it up. Do you think that this movie is going to push more people into playing D&D?
I think so, honestly.
Do you think like they will be like those of us that are already geeks, already played a ton, like, we're going to possibly incorporate some of the things that we saw, obviously, because like it was awesome and we loved it. But do you think those people who were just like on a Friday night, like, I want to go on a date, I want to go see a movie, and like never played before, doesn't really know anything about D&D, do you think that this will drive them to get into it?
I hope so, and I have hopes that the D&D community at large doesn't gatekeep.
Yeah,
like, because there's a lot of people that have this sense of superiority, like, oh, I've been playing since 1st edition, and like, you're new to this, you've only ever played 5e, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, okay, so help them.
Yeah.
Don't hold it over everybody's head that like, you've been playing this for so long. Because like, the 1st edition I ever played was 3.5, and then I briefly tried 4th edition and I didn't really care for it, and then got into 5th edition. So I am mainly a 5e player, and I've been playing for almost 7 years now. I think something.
It was 7.
Heather will probably know. So like, the gatekeeping is a real thing, and like, even with me playing as long as I have, and knowing the lore that I know, and like all the stuff like that, because like 8 of the like 12 channels I'm subscribed to on YouTube are all just D&D lore.
Yeah.
Like, I could be one of those gatekeepers that's like,
a low subscribe amount.
You don't know anything, you're an idiot, like, I know all this, like, but how is that going to help the hobby grow?
Yeah.
Like, all that's going to do is paint you and your community as a pretentious bunch of jerks and say, like, oh, I liked the movie, but screw that game. Like,
yeah, no, I think that, like, especially with our group, the gatekeeping is like, there's no gatekeeping whatsoever.
Yeah, in our group.
Yeah, because like
we just brought your brother into it, and had to be like, okay, look, if I say something that doesn't make sense to you, stop me right there.
Yeah.
Let me explain it.
Yeah.
I don't want you to be lost.
It was funny too, because when we were creating his character and you were saying certain things, I'm like, hold on.
Adam, by the way.
Adam, this is what this means, just so you know.
He's like,
Blake's
At one point, Blake's like, AC, I'm like, dude, he doesn't know what that is.
Adam even went, I didn't even understand that I didn't understand that, so thanks, Dan.
But as a newer player, I've been playing for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And like,
you've been playing 2 years now?
We've been playing for 2 years together.
Dang.
We need to make this campaign move forward.
Yeah.
We do. But yeah, like, me
my
as
biggest weakness as a DM is pushing the storyline. Like, we have so much fun at the table that I'm just like, why would I end this? Like,
But yeah, me as a newer player, being able to see that both lines of it, of like, I know what you're talking about. I know some of the lore that you're talking about. I know the mechanics of the game. I can still be like, hold on, the new player doesn't know what that means.
Yeah.
But that's what, like,
That's what's so great about D&D.
Yeah.
Is that like you can bring in all these new people, and like they may be friends from like work, like Joel, or like friends that you've met through other people, like Dan was. And you know, we've
Thanks,
gotten
David.
to Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks, David. Oh, look, we found another thing David likes, Dan.
Oh, wow.
Yes!
Does he actually like Dan, though? Or?
It doesn't matter. We do. So it's brought us to this point where, like, we all
Just
have...
kidding, David. Have fun in England.
There's, like, this point where we have this, like, camaraderie that we've all joined together. And, like, we've now, like, moved into each other's lives. Like, we're over at your house all the time. You're over at our house all the time. Like, heck, we're going to see each other, like...
We saw each other last night. We're going to see each other today, obviously. And then you guys are coming back down tomorrow.
Yeah. So, like, you start...
And we live an hour away, by the way.
Yeah, we live an hour from each other. Like, you start these relationships off and you start these friendships, like, honestly, kind of like the movie did. Like, you have these relationships where things aren't quite developing, like Simon and Doric.
Yeah.
Doric, yes!
You got it.
So,
Nailed
like,
it.
I'm really bad with, like, made-up names. That's why all of my characters start with the letter F. And so, you have these, like, developments, and it's so cool to see, like, in the movie... Almost like how it is in real life. Like, at the end of the movie, they're all friends. They're all, like, quote-unquote family. And that's a lot of, like, what we are.
Yeah.
And...
Yeah, like, we hang out enough to where my daughter now calls Dan Uncle Dan. Like, we didn't prompt her to do that. She just one day realized that, like, we have as close of a friendship as I do with Matt, who is her actual, like, blood uncle.
Yeah.
And so now she just calls Dan Uncle Dan. And so it's like she's just seen this similarity between the friendship that we have and the closeness, and is like, oh, this must be my uncle. This must be part of our family. Like,
Yeah. So what we're trying to say, I think, is go see the movie, and then you'll get a family.
Yeah.
Go see the movie, buy an entire bucket worth of dice, and the player's handbook. Please buy the player's handbook if you're trying to.
At least.
Like, you don't have to have all the other books, but, like, if you have that one, it helps the DM out significantly.
Yeah.
I
bought it and I still haven't read it.
I don't want to spend the money. Yeah, Blake, I'll just borrow your copy.
I read my stuff
until we both needed it at the same time, and I'm like, "Hey Matt, can I have the player's handbook?" And you're like, well,
I haven't
using it."
finished reading.
I'm like, "Give me my book."
Blake, do you need to borrow mine?
No, I think I have a good enough understanding of the basic mechanics after 7 years that I don't need it anymore.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing that's good. If you know what you're looking for online, you can find the rules.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And especially because they've now all been added to public domain or whatever. Creative Commons.
Yeah, Creative Commons.
Yeah, so you can find most of the 5th edition rules online for free.
Yeah.
So be open.
Yeah. Be open to change. Be the change you want to see in the world.
And it's not as dorky. It's not as dorky as it seems.
Well,
it is as dorky
It's
as it
as
seems.
dorky as it seems.
But it's a fun kind of dorky.
But don't be afraid to embrace the dorkiness. Like, when you first start and, like, people are getting into character and doing silly voices and stuff, and you're sitting at the table like, oh, yeah, I'm going to have to do, like...
And don't worry about doing the voices either.
You don't have to do a voice.
Yeah,
but
no.
it's weird to, like, talk in character because, like, somebody addresses your character and you're like, and it's really easy to say, well, like, oh, well, Lalander says something along these lines, and it's like,
do it just first person, not third person.
Just embrace it because it's super fun. Like, and that's one of the things I appreciated when we got Adam into it. Is like the first sentence he said was in character, and he did a voice, and I was like that started like right away, and I was like, hey, like I didn't even have the confidence to do that when I first started. Like I was like, oh yeah, so this I was DMing because I didn't start as a player. I was very foolish, and I was like because I just bought the starter set on a whim, and was like, oh, let's try this out. I thought it was kind of just like a board game, which was weird because I had played 3rd edition before, but also that guy wasn't DMing properly. He was just doing combat.
Yeah.
But like, so I was like, oh, it's just some kind of game. And like, I was like, oh, well, this character says something along these lines. And that's how I DM'd for a while. Like, I never got into any character. Like,
And then you introduced Zapuvis, and it was all.
that guy was fun. I'm just saying. But like, if you're new to it, and like, don't worry about feeling like a dork. You're gonna feel like a dork for like the first 2 times you do it. But if you just embrace it and commit, the whole game just becomes so much better. Like,
And you
if
honestly
you
get
commit
out-
to role playing,
Yeah.
you're gonna make friends out of it. Nobody's gonna like you sit up at the table and you're like, oh yeah, I'm playing a goblin, and then they say something to you and you're like, hi, my name's Grimble Gramble the Goblin. Like, the first time you do that, you're gonna like, oh, everybody's gonna look at me dumb. But then you actually say it and they're like, nice voice, man. Like, that was great. Like, good job, keep it up. Like, it's a welcoming community.
And
For
you
the
can
most
move
part.
on. And you can move on like me. I know I suck at voices. Like, I am absolutely awful. The worst voice impressions.
So we're
like,
gonna do
ever,
the wrong
ever.
voice actor game today,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
And so, oh God, please no. And so, like, while I know I can't do that, like, I try and define my characters by like their oddities, and
Yeah.
so like
And speech patterns
and
instead
speech
of
patterns, and
actual
like
voice.
and like you know, education.
Like, Friendly has a
levels.
little bit of a lisp.
Yeah, just a little bit sometimes.
He's slightly Mike Tyson-y.
Yeah. or you have these different things that you can do, and it's so awesome just to be there with friends and being able to be a goofball. Like,
Yeah.
our D&D sessions after every week, like with my job and how terrible it is sometimes, like being able to just get together with friends and stab something or eat something's fingers or like, you know, just have
In-game.
these in game.
Oh, I guess I'll call that guy and tell him he's not needed anymore.
But it's not just a way to like. It's not just a game you're playing. Like, it's not like, oh, I'm going to play Friday Night Risk.
It's
and
a community.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a community, and it's building up a family, and it's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
And I love it. I love
A
it.
lot. I like a
A
lot.
lot. So I think to wrap it up, let's all say our favorite character, and then from the movie.
From
And
the
I think-
from the
Oh,
movie.
I
Yeah,
thought you were
nothing-
talking about our characters.
No.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, obviously, Friendly is my favorite character.
Lilander's probably mine.
Yeah.
Wham.
Yeah.
Wham's
But
my
so
favorite.
in the movie, who's y'all's favorite character?
Olga.
Holga?
I
You can say the same
Just
thing.
because
it's fine.
they did such a
They
good job
did
of portraying the
such a great
barbarian.
job
Like,
with that,
I
yeah.
thought that she was going to be like the big tough woman that's also like the secret brains behind everything, but like all
Nah,
of
she
her
was dumb.
suggestions were spot on for barbarian. It's just like, we need a deer. Like, no, we don't. So you're saying she did turn into a deer? Like,
Who's your favorite?
All right, so I would have to say Holga probably for this exact same reason, but I will say as a close second, it would probably be Simon.
Yeah.
Just
I mean,
because of that same.
I will
like,
pick Doric like every time because of my stupid like love
You
for
like druids,
druids.
yeah.
But Simon also close second.
Cool. All right, well that will wrap up our
insanely long talk.
insanely long talk on Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. But if you guys are enjoying listening, please share with your friends, and we will see you next time. Or not see you, but
You don't have any friends.
Bye.